what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night, o'er the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets ran
Good morning, everyone, and a big thank you to the Rocky River High School Ravens Battalion for sending us the video and presenting our colors. So thank you so much for doing this. I love this battalion. They have supported us for several years, and guess what? This group that was presenting the colors today, it's a full battalion of Latinas. Yes, they presented a couple of years ago and it was so beautiful. They look so wonderful. So we thank you again for your partnership this year. Rocky River Ravens Battalion, the color guard, not the whole battalion, but the color guard is, it's all Latina. So thank you so much for doing that for us today. I am Dr. Rosana Saladin. I am the Director of Community Partnership and Family Engagement, and I've been the dreamer and coordinator of this summit for 5 years. This is my baby. It's so wonderful to do it virtually this year, since last year we had to cancel a day before it happened. So I'm excited that we're able to make it happen this year for all of you. And with us, I am originally from the Dominican Republic, I forgot to say, originally from the Dominican Republic, and I've been here in Charlotte for 12 years now, working for CMS for 7 of those years. I would like to take a moment to thank our partners and collaborators. These are community partners led by Latinos and Latinas, and or that have a Latino or a Latina in an executive position. So I will start with the Latin American Chamber of Commerce of Charlotte. They have been our partner in crime since we started 5 years ago. So thank you so much for supporting us. This year, we have the pleasure of having as well Latin Americans Working for Achievement, LAWA, and we also have Charlotte Works as our collaborating agencies. There are 3 departments in CMS who are locking arms to make this happen for you today as well. And these are Community Partnership and Family Engagement, which is the department that I lead. We also have Learning and Language Acquisition, and we also have Career and Technical Education. So thank you so much, fearless leaders and CMS colleagues, for seeing the vision of Latino YES and supporting us throughout this journey. We also have wonderful sponsors this year. I want to take just a moment to thank them. Thank PNC, Walmart, Charlotte Works, Public Supermarkets, Sherwin-Williams, Microsoft, American Airlines Cadet Academy, Sabor, Latin Grill or Rida Hospitality is the same group, and Charlotte Knight, Los Caballeros de Charlotte. So thank you so much for our sponsors who are able to make this happen for us today. With that, I would like to introduce Ms. Latarja Henry. She is the Chief of Staff for CMS. She is my supervisor, and let me tell you a secret. She was the person who saw the vision of this Latino Summit and supported all the way when we brought the idea to her. So thank you, Ms. Henry, for your support. I know you're a Latina at heart, and thank you so much for being here with us.
Buenos dias. It is so good to see you all here today. My name is Latarja Henry, and I am the Chief of Staff, and I bring you greetings on behalf of the superintendent and the entire leadership team of Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools. I would also like to take this opportunity to introduce CMS at-large board member, Jennifer De La Hara. Ms. De La Hara?
Thank you so much. Good morning. I'm so excited to be able to join you all here at the Latino Youth Empowerment Summit this morning. Grateful for all of our partnerships that Dr. Saladin mentioned, and really excited about this opportunity for our students. So thanks for having me, and I bet it's going to be a great morning. Thank you.
Thank you. I am so thrilled that you all have taken the time today on this teacher workday to take advantage of the opportunity to learn something new and grow your leadership skills. You all have been through a lot this past year. The entire world has. But I wanted to acknowledge and affirm that you all, every student in this Zoom room, you all have persevered even in the most difficult time. And I want you to know that you may not recognize it now, but surviving and thriving through this past pandemic year has and will serve you well in the future. This pandemic has shown us that the leadership paradigm, what and who we believe leaders are, has shifted. That's not bad. When you look back over this past year, we see young people taking charge, leading adults, and also challenging authority, all for the purpose of making this country better for all people who live in it. So my challenge for you today is to keep pushing yourself to learn new things, push through what you think you can't do, and never, ever be afraid to speak truth to power. I want you to have a wonderful day and an amazing rest of the school year. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Saladin.
Thank you, Ms. Henry. It is a pleasure always to have you and to hear your empowering words for all of us, because I take that as well with me. I just want to, before we invite our speaker for today, I want just to take care of a couple of housekeeping. There is an interpretation feature that you can use. We have live Spanish, English, English, Spanish interpretation. If you need these in Spanish, you just have to click at the bottom of your Zoom link, the world icon that you will see. And in that icon, you can choose Spanish, and you will listen to this directly in Spanish. I'll repeat this in Spanish as well. Tenemos interpretación directa de inglés a español. Si ustedes necesitan escuchar el mensaje, los mensajes que tenemos durante todo el día de hoy, pueden ir a la opción que le da Zoom en la barra de abajo de su pantalla. Hay un icono de mundito. En ese icono ustedes le pueden dar clic allí y seleccionar el idioma español. Ahí podrán ver todo lo que están aquí pasando, viendo en vivo, pero lo van a escuchar en su idioma en español. Quiero invitar a nuestro invitado especial, Amir Ismail. Yo tuve el placer de conocer a Ismail. I'm sorry, I went straight into Spanish. Let me go back and change into English. Thank you, Amir. I am introducing to you our guest speaker, Amir Ismail. He is a fearful leader here in Charlotte. I had the pleasure of meeting him a couple of years ago when we were talking and planning through through this Latino YES 2020, right? And I had the pleasure of meeting him. He was the vice chair of a local chapter of a national organization called Alpha. Remind me, Amir, what Alpha means.
Association of Latino Professionals for America.
Latino Professionals for America. So I always forget the acronym, but Alpha, he was the vice chair for the local chapter. So thank you so much, Amir. He is an awesome leader. He owns his own company, and he also works for one of the banking industries here. So thank you, Amir, for being with us, and we're excited to have you as a guest today.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Rosana and Latarja and the rest of the CMS organization and leadership for inviting me to speak here today. I am so excited to be here. And before I get into my spiel, just want to confirm that you guys can see the screen. You can see the PowerPoint. Yep. Perfect. Well, hola y buenos días. Hello and good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 Latino YES Conference, where we will be speaking about leading in times of uncertainty. And as much as I would have loved to meet you all in person, I am so honored to be speaking to you all virtually. My name is Amir Ismail, and my pronouns are he, him, and his. I identify as a proud Venezuelan and Lebanese man. And for those of you that know Shakira, I am the male version of her, except that my hips do lie. So I am about to take you guys on a journey. And in this process, we're going to discover 5 ways of how you are going to get past and lead in times of uncertainty and to motivate you to reach greater heights. We've heard this before, right? We are coming off of a pandemic, a global health crisis that has never been done. We've never seen anything like this. And the types of leadership skills that you'll need to survive in this new normal, in this new era, are different. And no one is excluded from what we've gone through. So the lens and the way that we operate and the way that we express leadership and lead with transparency is going to be different. And we're going to talk about that. So we are more connected than ever before. This pandemic has made it crystal clear that we need to learn and cope with dealing and managing through times of uncertainty. So I'd like to use this platform. I'm going to switch slides here. I'd like to use this platform and share with you all my personal story of how strong leadership skills and a growth mindset has helped shape me and has helped accelerate my path to where I am today, and how it could do the same for you. The stories that I will share will highlight issues faced as a first-generation college student, a first-generation American, and to the oldest sibling of 3. And I know what you guys are thinking. There's no pressure at all, right? This is an easy feat. And you'll see some of my family on the screen here. So in 1993, my family immigrated to the United States when I was just a year and a half old. The story of coming here was not easy, and quite frankly, it was filled with uncertainty. They escaped war and turmoil in Lebanon and fled to Venezuela, where I was born. I'm a 3rd-generation Venezuelan. My mom was born there and her mom was born there. They left behind countless possessions, property, and family. They gave up their dreams and their way of life, all to give me a fighting chance to live mine in the United States. Not to mention coming here with just a few $100s and not knowing the language at all. There was not much room for confidence and certainty. Another challenge was that there was a language barrier. And this might be common for some of us, where my first languages were Spanish and Arabic growing up. It was not English, and neither from my parents. And for these sacrifices that my parents endured, I am forever grateful. And so today, to this day, my dad says, don't do anything that stresses you out, because I've carried the burden of stress for the both of us. So talk about living a life of uncertainty and having to make such big decisions and not knowing where you'll end up and what the result will be. And that's what my family had to endure. And as a result, it's instilled so much motivation in myself. And so maybe some of you guys can relate to your story because of what your families had to endure. But ultimately, sacrifice, gambling on yourself, and trusting your gut feeling are common denominators of leading in times of uncertainty. My family did it, and now I'm so relentless in myself and how I view life and how I motivate others. So my goal is to pay them back for these sacrifices and everything that they've had to endure, especially going through under this uncertainty. Now, you take someone with this kind of background, and statistics show that you have less than 15% chance of graduating college. And for those that do end up graduating college, they end up struggling. So being a part of an underserved community, being part of an ethnic background, being a first generation college student, growing up in poverty, coming in and not knowing the language, it was quite the struggle. And the reason why I'm sharing this with you is we're going to talk about the journey of how, by being persistent, by persevering, by having a growth mindset and believing in yourself and continuing to fight the good fight, anything is possible for you, especially in this country and especially with all the opportunities that we have. And now, during these times of uncertainty, it is even more paramount and more critical that we think about how we go about life and how we view it and how we tend to be a leader in this new normal. So everyone here that's listening today has their own story to share. We all come from different backgrounds, and until we explore those stories, we don't fully know each other. And think about your path and how far you've come to be where you are today and where your family has done for you to be here today. I often reflect on these memories and lead my life filled with gratitude. And I implore you and encourage you guys to do the same. And so we'll explore some of this in more detail. But my mom and dad are on the left here, and they got married when they were 18, and they had me when they were 20. And the picture in the bottom here is when I was in Venezuela, and those are my siblings. And we grew up in Jersey City, New Jersey, and I'm relatively new to Charlotte. I've been here for roughly 2.5 years, and I'm so excited to be speaking to you all today. So let's get into some takeaways, some things that have helped me view life differently and has helped separate me and set me apart and set me up for success. And I hope that you guys will find some of these lessons that I've learned helpful to you, where you can apply it and it can help you in your personal lives. So my first takeaway, and I think about where I am today and how far I've come and my family have come. And I'm like, what makes me different? What is the thing that has made me unique? What can I teach others based on the things that I had to endure and based on the things that I had to go to get to this stage in life? And it always comes down to mindset determines success. So AIC Mindset, the business that I founded, the pillars and the foundation of it is mindset determines success. So as you think about building your mental and building your aptitude of how you look at life and how you go about it and how you persevere, it all comes back down to that mindset and centering yourself around this growth mindset, which we will talk about, is what has helped me separate myself, because becoming a great leader often starts with your mindset and how you decide to act, especially during times of uncertainty. And think about giving up or not wanting to do something or when something gets really hard. I had plenty of times in my life to quit or to take the easy path, but I chose to keep fighting. And I know a lot of you are choosing to keep fighting and to do what you need to do day in and day out that has gotten you to where you are today. So as part of this presentation, we're going to talk about resources. We'll talk about books. We'll talk about different nuggets that I've learned that I want to share with you guys. But the first one is, so what does this mean for you, right? These are characteristics of growth mindset that you're seeing on the screen by Carol Dweck. And she's the author of a book called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. And I pulled some of the characteristics of a growth mindset from this book because they are so important. So one, embrace challenges. I want you guys to continue to embrace challenges the same way that you have. And the better that you become at embracing these challenges and not avoiding challenges, the stronger that you will become and the better that your mindset will be. Because the people that face it head on and tackle it head on are the ones that don't shove it under the rug and continue to persevere even more than others, right? It's so important that you look at a problem and you tackle it and you build corrective steps. And sometimes you don't have to feel like you're alone in doing this. You have teachers and guidance counselors and friends and family that can help you go through this and cope through any challenge that you have in your life. And we'll talk about some of the challenges that I face and how I went about it. And I'm sure you guys have many stories that you can share about the challenges that you've had to embrace and endure. And how much you've learned after embracing that challenge. Number two, you want to show persistence in the face of setbacks instead of giving up easily. So one of the easiest things anyone can do in leading through times of uncertainty is giving up. Well, you know what? I'm having a hard time finding an internship. I'm going to give up. I don't really understand math. I'm just going to not give up. I'm not really good at this sport. I'm going to give up. It's the easiest thing anyone can do. It's so easy to just say, you know what? I don't want to do it. As opposed to being persistent, continuing to go in and day out and working on your craft and working on yourself. And at the very least, not proving to others, but proving to yourself that you're worth it and that you can do what you need to do. And these are the characteristics that are going to help you lead during these times of uncertainty, by being persistent, by embracing these challenges. And third, you want to learn from criticism as opposed to ignoring negative feedback. So if we were to think about this last year that just happened, right, it's hard to recap 2020 without talking about challenges, without talking about negative things that might have happened, and maybe some criticism. So criticism is often an opportunity for you to learn from it. And so I look at it as there's no such thing as mistakes. It's opportunities. It's opportunities to constructively criticize yourself and take that criticism and turn it into something positive. Because you don't know what you're not good at, or you don't know where you need to improve unless you know that criticism. And when you're leading during these times of uncertainty, it's so good to work on the things that you need to work on. And there has never been a better time to work on yourself than now. If you think about, what we are able to do as a society is so limited, right? We can't go out as much, we can't gather as much. And so these are the times to be reading your favorite book, listening to your podcast, starting a business that you've always wanted to start, and continuing to work on yourself. Self-development and self-care is so, so important. We'll talk a little bit more about that. So, and also I want you guys to see your efforts as a path to mastery. That's number 4 on here. So everything that you're doing is all part of your story, whether it's something that you'll do for the rest of your life, for the next 2 years, for the next 5 years, for the next 5 minutes. It's all a part of your story and how you're developing as a young leader. And so whether that thing is successful or doesn't work out, it is all setting you up to your next phases in life. And that's the way that I would look at things. So where you're seeing things where, well, why am I not doing well in this? Or why can't, I get better or stronger at this? That is all your path in getting better, because no one just jumps into something and they're an expert. It's all a long path. And your life journey and your personal journey is a long-term game, my friends. And I want you guys to realize that life is, it's a long-term, and professional development is a long-term game. So you might sometimes not get immediate results or immediate pleasures, and continuing to go day in and day out and fight the good fight, you will start seeing incremental changes as the longer you're in it and the longer you continue to master your craft. So don't see your efforts as useless or they're not working. Sometimes you might not care for a specific subject, but it's setting you up for success in some way, shape, or form. And you can use that. You can use negative experiences into a positive. And that's the way that I would look at it. And lastly, this is a very important one. So finding lessons and inspiration in the success of others. This is so, so big for me, because I think envy and jealousy are very, very flawed characteristics. And when you see someone doing well, and you see them being successful, or they know something that maybe you don't, or you're working on, that is a great opportunity to admire that person, or to respect that person, or to applaud that person. As humans, all we have, the biggest thing that we have is the power of love and the power of appreciation and of uplifting each other and not tearing one another down. So, and I think the more that you look at success and you appreciate it and you applaud that person, I honestly, the moment I started doing this, I started seeing so much return, because I wasn't stressed out. There wasn't anxiety. I wasn't comparing myself to anyone else. And don't compare yourself to anyone else. That's another one, right? Everyone's journey is different. And what might take someone 1 year to learn might take someone else 3 years to learn. And that's completely fine. You have to continue to live in your own lane, and don't feel threatened by the success of others is really what it comes down to. If anything, I would want to be friends with that person and learn from them, and see what has made them successful, right? And I think that's a big one. So appreciate what others have to offer. And so I want to share with you guys a quick story here. So growing up, I didn't have an ordinary teenage life, and I'm going to explain these two pictures that I have on the screen here. So throughout the week, I would go to school Monday through Friday, typical school week. And on the weekends is when things got interesting for me. So I would wake up at 3 a.m. and I would head to Connecticut with my dad, and we would work a major flea market where we would sell clothes. So sometimes we would even work at gas stations and sell clothes to truckers that would pass by. Personally, wasn't working flea markets and was in school. I had my difficulties. So when I was in elementary school or in high school, like you guys, I had a challenging time fitting in, whether it was through making friends, building connections, or even having a sense of belonging. So growing up, and this is where I'll get a little vulnerable, but growing up in the United States as a Latino and as a Middle Eastern man, two different parts of the world, right? And having a name of Amir, which is more Middle Eastern. And so sometimes saying that I was Venezuelan, I had to prove that in many ways, right? It sounds like, would you want me to say a few sentences in Spanish for you to believe me, right? And I grew up eating empanadas and shawarma and hummus, right? So like I got the best of both worlds when it came to food, and when it came to culture and loving life. But growing up, I had to prove my race, and that was so difficult. And I remember this was a tough time for me, right? And so, and when you think about after 9/11, right, I was bullied and victimized and associated with terrible things that I personally had nothing to do with me. I was a teenage boy, and I could not fathom why anyone would say horrific things, right? And I was in 6th grade and remember people calling me a terrorist and a bomb maker and so many other hurtful things. And I didn't do anything wrong, right? And I would never hurt a fly. So this was a very tough time for me. And I remember wanting to quit, and I felt alienated simply because of my race. And race in today's world, it's so important, and it's at the front of a lot of our discussions. And so at the time, I was ashamed of my ethnic background and my family history, and I actually started running away from it. So, and the reason I share this with you is tough times don't last. People do. I outlived those times. And if we think about what we're going through today, you are going to outlive those things that you might be going through, this year, this past year, because of maybe what the pandemic has caused, because of the health crisis, because of not being able to see friends and family and go to school, or anything that might have been taken away from you. So I think, I had the urge to give up many times. And so as a result, I remember doing the wrong things and getting in trouble and being embarrassed. And my family did everything they could and they did everything I could have ever asked for from parents, but they didn't understand the education system nor the issues that I was facing as a first-generation college student. So as a result, I had to figure things on my own. So you guys can start seeing the amount of uncertainty building up, right? And not only in leading through uncertainty, but the feeling of being uncertain about yourself, uncertain about a culture, uncertain about your ethnic background, uncertain about if there is even a future for you at all, right? So I personally didn't have the best elementary and high school experience, but I managed to persevere. And I think that's the key takeaway here, and to continue to push forward. So, and the things that grounded me, right, was education and providing a better life for my family. That was my driving force. So think about what your driving force is, where you are in life, and what you will ground yourself on when times are tough and when things are not great. So think about what you've done in the past year to ground yourself and to keep pushing forward. And so what you're seeing on the screen here are powerful lessons of positivity, faith, and overcoming obstacles, right? People that overcome obstacles, they never stop believing. They never stop believing in themselves and in their cause and what they're trying to do. They don't let anyone tear down their dreams. And I encourage you to never let anyone tear down what you believe in and what you want to do in your life, because it is your journey and your path, and no one can take that away from you. So you have to protect your dream and your vision and who you are and what you represent. And we already spoke about number 2, right? Every problem has a limited lifespan. If you continue, every day that you don't quit is a day that you've won. And that's the way that I look at it. You know, it might be a really tough day, or a tough week, but that's 1 week in the books, and 1 week that I survived, and 1 week that I looked at things differently and I thrived. And by the way, we all have positive things in our lives and negative things. And those negative things, or every problem, will change you, will change your life in a good way, in a positive way. And it might change the way that you think, in the way that you have a growth mindset and tackle problems. So the more that you embrace these challenges and problems, similar to what we just spoke about, the better that you'll end up, especially during times of uncertainty. And intellectual curiosity and intelligence will help you solve your problems. And so that's something that you want to keep in mind. Being curious, asking questions, being persistent, those are big strengths that you can have, as opposed to just, being proactive about it, as opposed to just letting it happen. That's what's going to help you maybe solve a problem or get past a specific time in your life. And problems, by the way, they tend not to go away they don't go away on their own unless we do something about it, and unless we're proactive and we go after it and we tackle it face on. So the more that you shove under the rug, the more that pile will be when you eventually move that rug. So think about that as you're thinking about uncertain times and what we're going through. Tough times don't last, but people do. Takeaway number 3. And I'm just going to have more pictures on the screen here. And so for me, I want to talk to you guys next about the road to college. Right? And a lot of you guys might be considering college as the next step. And so this is when my life starts getting incredibly positive. And I had an amazing family growing up, and I had a really good childhood in terms of the support system that I have, but I had challenges like all of us. And it's made me who I am today. And I'm very proud of my history and where I come from, because it's created that path for me of where I am today and where I plan on going and where you guys are planning on going. So college is the opportunity to reinvent yourself. And so after this pandemic is another opportunity to reinvent yourself and think about what are those things that are important to you? What are those things that you want to keep as you continue pushing forward in your life? So personally, when I started college, or even before that, the takeaway here is to be engaged and to stay involved, especially as you think about enhancing and growing your leadership skills. Leadership completely changed my life. Involvement and proactivity and staying engaged changed my life for the better in many ways. And it made me such an appealing candidate to many employers around the world. So I took college as an opportunity to build a new identity and start something that no one in my family has done, right? And I was determined to create this legacy. So, but with everything, right, you go from a senior in high school to being a freshman again. And same thing, when you graduate college, you go from senior in college to being a freshman in the real world. My first 3 semesters in college, I struggled. I didn't know how to navigate the world, nor anyone to look up to, right? I lacked confidence, structure, professional conduct, and college was an opportunity to start new, but it was more importantly, it was an opportunity for me to be engaged and to stay involved. So as humans, belonging is one of the most important things that we want to feel. It's the one thing that we all have in common as human beings. We all want to feel loved. We all want to feel accepted. And we all want to feel valued. So think about what are those things that make you feel valued, and do those things, whether it's through an extracurricular, whether it's through a nonprofit, whether it's you starting your own business. Personally, I felt value when I joined Sigma Lambda Beta, which is a fraternity that I joined. It was a Latino multicultural fraternity. And I got to speak and be a part of individuals that had different backgrounds, and they came from a melting pot of cultures. I was also a part of Alpha at the collegiate level, and I was on the executive board. And this was all Latinos and individuals from the Latinx community. And I felt very, very welcomed and appreciated. I also was I was homecoming king in college. I actually got to travel to Tanzania, Africa, which is that picture on the bottom. And that's when I got selected to go on a mission trip to Africa. And I got to learn about different cultures and a different ethnic background. And I got to see the world from a different lens. And then I also was part of an organization called America Needs You, which was for first generation college students and for all backgrounds. And I got the opportunity to do a keynote speech in front of Eli Manning and all the New York Giants. And that's the guy on the top right here. But I would have never had these opportunities if I wasn't involved and if I wasn't engaged. And so I encourage you guys to not only participate in organizations, but to try and lead them, to sit on the leadership board and to figure out what are your skill sets and what you need to do. And I think, especially now in this pandemic and what we're going through, and kind of the more engaged you are with in the community and any other affiliations you might have, I think it's that's what separates individuals from others that might have really strong leadership skills. And so one thing I also want to mention is you want to make sure that you're prioritizing the important things in your life. So I remember when I was first started college, I was like, I'm going to do everything and anything I could. I joined 10 different organizations and I was super involved in everything. But then I started realizing that I was too involved and my academics were failing. So that's another important lesson. So you don't want to say yes to everything. You want to be strategic with your time, and you want to prioritize what are the most important things in your life. So rather than, for me, and rather than doing 8 organizations, I just did 3. So rather than being, mediocre at everything, I was really good at those 2 to 3. And that's when I really started to thrive and not spread myself too thin. And especially now, right? You want to think about self-care and self-management, and you want to do the things that are most important in your life. Takeaway number 4 is be comfortable with rejection. It makes us strong. And think about all of the things that maybe you've gotten rejected for, whether it was a job, an internship, something that you really wanted. It makes you stronger. I remember when I remember doing a mock interview, and I participated in a mock interview program at the collegiate level, and I was a freshman, and the event was a business professional event. And I remember I went in with nothing but slacks and a button up, and the button up that I had even had a stain on it. So I remember I sat down for the mock interview, and there were speed interviews. So it was every 2 minutes it would rotate. And so I sat down for the interview, and I remember very vividly the interviewer said, "Hey, Amir, I want you to look around." And this was after 10 seconds of silence. So I didn't know what was going on. He didn't want to start the interview. And then he finally engaged me and said, "Amir, I want you to take a look around." And so I remember looking around, and he said, "I want you to tell me what's different from you than everyone else in this room." And then I couldn't figure it out. I didn't know what was different. And I said, "I don't know." And he said, "You are the most underdressed person in this room. So why would I ever hire someone like you that was unprepared?" And I remember this was my first real sting in college. And at the time I couldn't afford a suit, but he didn't know that. And I don't think anyone would care, but it was an excuse that I made for myself because I was spending money elsewhere. So it was an excuse that I made for myself. And for me, that rejection was so important. So important. I still remember it to this day. I still remember the emotions because I started working really hard and I started saving up for the 3 suits that I would buy just a few weeks later. And I prided myself on being one of the most well-dressed people on campus, especially for interviews, for social functions, for professional functions and gatherings. So I took that rejection and I redirected it into something very positive. And that goes back to that criticism. I needed that constructive criticism. He told me straight up, "Why would I hire you? You're unprepared." So rejection is something that you take as fuel. And especially, if some of us are entering the workforce this year, next year, companies might not be hiring as much. There might be more rejection. People might not respond to you on LinkedIn as much as they normally would have. That rejection is going to be, not to normalize it, but don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of it. And so I think the more you get rejected, the closer you are to being accepted for whatever it is. So you can apply 99 times and get rejected all 99. You just need that one time. And really that's what's going to change your course. I want to share with you guys another quick story about being rejected, but also not taking no for an answer. When I was in college, I networked my way into a company called PwC. And so it's number 1, number 2 accounting firm in the world. And I remember I finished my first internship and then I finished my second summer internship. By the time I finished the second one, they asked me, "Hey, Amir, what do you want to do? Do you want to do tax or do you want to do audit?" And I remember I responded, "I don't want to do either of those. I want to do advisory. I want to do consulting." And that was their third arm that they didn't offer. And I remember the recruiter saying, "Hey, we don't offer advisory internships to people that come from your school, from your university is not a target school. And I remember thinking, I'm like, well, that's not fair. I'm not being selected because of my background, where I come from. And I don't think the school that I go to defines my skill sets and what my assets and what I bring to the table. So, and I remember the recruiter said, hey, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you are not leaving here with an internship in advisory. And so I was like, how do I, now what do I do, right? I could have just accepted defeat and said, you know what, okay, cool. This isn't going to work for me. But instead I reached out to my mentor and I asked him, I'm like, hey, do you know folks in advisory? And he worked at PwC at the time. And then he said, yes. So he referred me to his advisory friends and I went to go shadow them for a day. And after I shadowed them for the day, they all liked me. And I said, hey, would you guys be willing to write me a letter of recommendation? I want to apply for the advisory program. They said, yes. They sent me an email. I put together the email with the recommendation. I put together an email of all the things that that separated me and why I deserve to be an advisor and the skills that I have. And I updated my resume and I sent it to the recruiter and I said, hey, recruiter, how about now, right? This is why I deserve to be in it. And this is someone in advisory that wants to sponsor me or someone that thinks that I have what it takes. So she sends it off she's like, hey, Amir, I can't promise anything, but I will send it off to the lead recruiter and see what they think. A few days later, I get an email saying, congratulations, you've been selected for an interview. So I had to give up my offer that I had with the firm and re-interview with the firm because I didn't want audit or tax. So I interviewed with a partner and the interview went great. I mean, he looked at the resume and he was impressed and we had a great conversation. He's like, we look for people like you. And the recruiter was saying, we don't, because of your background. And so a week goes by and then it's the last day and it's the internship offer party. And the same recruiter that told me I would not leave with an internship offer was the same recruiter that announced that I was one of 2 in New York City and one of 10 in the entire country that got the advisory internship out of hundreds of applicants. And I was the only one that came from a public university. Everyone else was Harvard, Yale, Wharton, all these amazing institutions. And I was the only one that came from a public university. And I share this with you because when you believe in yourself and you fight for yourself and you don't let anyone define you and put you in a bubble or in a corner, things will happen for you. Because I'm a strong believer that opportunities just don't land on your lap. You have to chase them and you have to believe in yourself. And you have to also back it up, right? Back it up with facts and statistics and with skills and hard work and determination. So, and these are some of the pictures of, when I was at PwC. I mean, I went to Orlando and Washington, D.C. I got to meet Derek Jeter because of these internships. And I started my career in New York City with the firm and led to some incredible exit opportunities. And I got to live my dream, all because I didn't stop believing in myself and fighting for myself. And I encourage you guys to do the same because no one can take that away from you without your own permission. And so that is a huge thing for me. And so one of the last pieces of advice that I had is your past does not dictate your future. Who you are yesterday does not determine who you are today. Everyone has a story and a narrative that makes them who they are. And I'm here to tell you that if my mission in life is to inspire and motivate the next generation of leaders. And I'm certain that many of us share the sentiments in this room. And that's why CMS is putting together a conference like this, because they believe in you. And most importantly, you need to believe in you. So my message is simple. If I can do it, so can you. I come from very little, so I grew up under the poverty line and was financially poor most of my life, but I was rich with ambition and desire. And although I was disadvantaged of many resources, I learned to do a lot with very little. And although the world and the circumstances around me looked broken, I managed to find the puzzle pieces and to continue going forward because I've been given a wonderful opportunity to be someone, and so have you, right? You guys are in a great education system with great resources, and you have the opportunity to become someone. And so although the biggest disadvantages was coming from this setting and my background, it also served to be the biggest advantage because it instilled in me a relentless work ethic. Nothing was given to me easy, and I know nothing is being given to you guys easily. So you are naturally going to work harder than the person that might have had it easier for you, or might have come from privilege, or might have come from a lot more resources than you. So continue pushing for yourself, and you're going to have to work harder than some other people, but that's okay, because that builds character and that builds grit. So, and these skill sets, by the way, they're transferable, right? Ambition, desire, those are things that are hard to teach. And they will become a strategic advantage for you. And I am only one person, right? With this story, there are many more success stories to be made. And there is a success story waiting to be made from the people that are listening here and the people that will be listening. There are so many more success stories, and you guys are one of them. So I won't talk to you guys much about where I am today, but I have had the great honor of working at some of the world's biggest companies. I have started my own career coaching consulting business. I recently was named 30 under 30 professionals in Charlotte. I'm the vice president of Alpha. I was admitted to the World Economic Forum Global Shapers program. I recently bought a house just a few months ago. I've traveled to over 15 countries in 20 states. And so, but I come from very little and I come from nothing. And I say these things to encourage you guys and to motivate you guys, because if I was able to do it and there's other of my peers that come from these backgrounds are able to do it, so can you guys. So I did have some other things that I wanted to chat about, but I know that we are at time here. But I'll leave you guys with, a quote. It's one of my favorite quotes is, strive not to be a success, but rather to be a value. And it's by Albert Einstein. And it's one of my favorites. And I always look at it for motivation, because success is arbitrary. Everyone's definition of it is different. But if you're a valuable person and you continue to focus on value creation and how you can support someone else and be valuable to the people that you are surrounded with, I think that'll change the course of your life. Rather than chasing material possessions and monetary, goals, you continue to add value, and as a result, those things will flow in. So I'll leave you guys with this. If you guys wanted to reach out to me or connect after this conference, feel free to follow us on AIC Mindset on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, and all that good jazz. And take a picture of this or a screenshot of this slide, and feel free to reach out if you guys wanted to chat. Thank you for bearing with the technology. That was great to kind of see that transition, but we'd love to keep in contact with you all. I hope you found some value in this presentation. And Rosanna, I'll kick it over to you, or I'll kick it over to Andrew.